Big thanks to my brother who sent me two new VCore 95's 2023 version. My normie stick is the last generation VCore 95, the bright red with the blue accent. I demoed the new 2023 version from Tennis Warehouse a few weeks ago. I thought the new version was a lot like the old version, but sort of with everything dialed up to 11. And I liked it enough to ask for a new stick from my brother. So this is my first time out with a stick. Just managed to beat the storm here in Southern California. And just like the demo, everything is just pretty much like the old version, but dialed up a little bit everywhere. So I noticed the launch angle is a little bit higher with the new version, and I had to adjust my forehand grip from a semi-western to a full western grip. So the added benefit of that is, of course, more topspin, but I still managed to land the ball relatively deep when I wanted to. And my forehand still work in progress, and in my opinion, ugly as heck. But right now it's still my better wing, so live and learn. See, that one went way too far. The launch angle was just high enough to get the ball to land well past the baseline. So I think I adjusted my grip right there mid practice. The slices were crisp as usual with the VCore 95. And this is the one stroke where there's very little difference between the older version and the new version. The slice, see, that one went flying and wasn't intended to have it fly that far past the baseline. Like I said, every once in a while though, like it just the ball would just pop off the frame and fly further than I had anticipated. But I think that's mostly just my poor technique on my slices, like when the racket face opens up, or if I'm behind the ball when I sliced it, like that one. That one for sure was just a poor technique. Needed to make sure I'm staying ahead of my slices, get that racket and contact point out in front. So I like to practice taking the one-handed backhand on the rise, especially in rallies and playing points or just playing rig. But see, there you go, another one that popped out. But in rallies and regular playing situations, I get the deep, heavy shots in my backhand all the time because that's obviously my weaker wing. So I wanted to get away from just chipping and defensively slicing those deep balls all the time. So here I'm practicing it, simulating it as if the ball is landing very deep, close to the baseline, and I'm trying to take the ball on the rise on my backhand side. And maybe 1 out of every 10 or 11 shots, I'd get that random pop from this frame. Although I can't say whether if I'm just not precise enough. I know a lot of times when I'm not moving my feet, kind of lazy like that, just lollygagging, I would tend to get bad results. So here I'm back at the baselines. Again, see that ball popped way off the racket. It felt like it was a pretty good hit, but again, I don't know if I was just being lazy and not moving my feet and getting there in time to get a good contact with the backhand, especially with that backhand. A lot of times I'm not timing it right or not taking enough steps. Again, lazy footwork. But yeah, that issue with the random ball popping happens on the old version too. It's just that it seems to be happening a little bit more with this new VCore 95. So I still think it's a technique issue because it doesn't happen nearly as much on my forehand side. It mostly happens on the backhand side. And I just know, like, especially if I'm not expecting the ball or like if it came too fast like that, on occasion I get underneath the ball and open up the racket face and the ball just flies. And that's just common with any racket that I've used so far. Like once in a while you'll see just me, I'll just pop one well into the back fence with my backhand. The serve is where this new version of the VCore 95 really shines over the previous generation. These aren't edited, so you'll get to see all the misses and the balls in the net. But I think during warm-up I actually managed to hit about 9 out of 12 of my first few shots, which isn't too bad for such a small hit size. The VCore 95 has a ton of spin potential, especially on these second serve warm-ups. I could sometimes get some really decent side and top spin without really having to brush against the ball to achieve that effect, especially for second serves. Yeah, so on these warm-ups, I'm trying to. I usually warm up with the second serve, just to make sure that I could at least hit the second serve on any given day. There's your first serve is really only as good as your second serve. Oh, there's one in the net. Yeah. All things considered, I think this is where like the major difference to me is between the old version and the new version. I think the slight opening on the top end of the hoop really helps, especially my service motion. There's a little bit more room for the ball to brush against. There's a lot more movement on that section of the string that's open, or at least the crosses are longer. Therefore, at the same tension, the mains are allowed to move a little bit more. Especially on flatter serves, I tend to hit a little bit higher up on the string bed most of the time anyway, and really like if I smack it dead in the middle, sweet spot, the VCore 95 really takes away a lot of power. Like even the old version, if you hit it smack dead in the middle of the sweet spot, you have to really generate your own power with the 95. But with the new version, since they open up the top a little bit, when I do hit on the upper half of the sweet spot, it not only gives me the opportunity to generate more pop on the serve, but it also gives me the opportunity to generate a lot more spin. Again, I think it's because when they widen that section up, the longer crosses at the same tension allow the mains in that particular section to move a little bit more and snap back, especially with these poly strings. It really helps to have that slightly opened up area on the frame near the top. And then if you can consistently hit in that spot, obviously with this new version, it gives you more power and spin. But if you hit still squarely in the middle of the sweet spot, it feels just like an old version. So there's not much difference there in terms of the ability to generate. But it does help with this new version, and that's where I personally, this is what sold me on the new version. Everything else, the benefits are incremental, but when it comes to the serves, because you're sort of hitting the shot either forward or flat, having that top portion opened up a little bit helps, especially with the flat first serve and for a spinny second serve. Once I got warmed up, I usually do these little exercises where I'm hitting 2 balls consecutively on each side of the court from the at side and the do side to kind of sort of simulate what playing a point feels like. A lot of times I would, miss my second serves, especially after missing my first serve, because I kind of get locked into the same toss, same location, same motion with my swing. So a lot of times, instead of hitting a spinny second serve, I would just take some pace off of the second serve during point play to try and get the ball in, which is not conducive to a good result. I struggle with trying to swing slower to get the ball in play. In fact, almost always if I don't swing at at least an 80 to 90% swing speed on my second serves, they will just fly out. I guess if I slow down my racket head, I end up impacting the ball with the racket head face open, because if I had to slow down the racket in order to achieve that effect. So this is an opportunity for me to, from both sides of the court, simulate point play, do a first serve, whether the first serve is in or not, I will go ahead and hit a second serve, just to switch and alternate between the slight adjustment and differences in my first and second serve motion. So on the first serve, I tend to toss a little bit further into the court to allow me to generate pace and body momentum into the shot. And the second serve, I tend to toss a little bit more straight up, and then use that motion of moving the racket across the backside of the ball to generate spin. So this little exercise here gives me the opportunity to switch back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, first serve motion, second serve motion, first serve motion, second serve motion, so that when I'm actually playing out a point, I don't get stuck in that mentality of the same toss, same motion, but just slowing down the racket in order to hit a second serve. I know a lot of times, players at my level who are more or less intermediate tend to just kind of pancake in that second serve, and really like when I can't even do that. I can't even pancake in a good second serve. I've tried it. When I go into that conservative motion, really just there's no shot whatsoever of me making that second serve unless I'm basically tapping it in. I'm at a point I'm even considering like just underhanding that second serve in just to get the point started sometimes. But yeah, this seems to be a pretty good serving day today.